and important. My cat is just going to town on a couch. And why, hello there. Today is day 726. It has been 726 days since Elden Ring was first announced at E3 2019. And it is 6 days until Summer Games Fest Live. And I've decided, I asked for some questions to do a Q&A today. I thought that would be fun, see what people are hyped about, curious about, and, just sort of have some fun until we get to SGF, where we hopefully will see Elden Ring. And I got a lot more questions than I thought I would. So I am making the executive decision to do daily Elden Wait episodes until SGF, where I will answer your questions, cover anything that comes up, and generally have a really good time until SGF. So with that, let's get into the questions. These first questions are from my Discord server. If you were unaware that I have a Discord server, I have one, and it's been pretty active lately, and we've been having a really good time getting hyped up for a trailer, hopefully, at Summer Games Fest, the kickoff. And these questions are from Discord, but I will also have questions coming from YouTube and Twitter, so lots of good stuff. So the first question is from Ghosty, who asks, how do you think the day-night cycle will impact the gameplay, and do you think that there will be any events linked to it, for example, an eclipse? I think for a lot of studios and developers, when I would see like a day-night cycle for a game, I would just assume it's your standard day-night cycle. It rotates through every, half hour or so. And that's more or less what it is, maybe with some weather changing that. With From Software, just given how they've played with this sort of stuff before, and just how as a developer, they're very interested in connecting mechanics with the story and the narrative, and the fact that the shattering of the Elden Ring kind of breaks reality, and it is said to command the stars, I could totally see day and night not being just a sort of simulation mechanic, but also factoring into the story and sort of being weird and specific for Elden Ring, sort of showing another way in which this shattering has sort of messed with things. So we'll see. That's speculation on my part, but we already saw that like the tree in the leaked trailer is illuminating this like big light, and it seems to look different at different times. So the day-night cycle may not be a straightforward just cycle through. I think nighttime, Omnipotent hinted that it will have mechanics, like maybe tougher enemies come out at night. So I definitely think there will be mechanical ramifications for the day-night cycle. Next, I have Maple Miyazaki, who is hitting me up with a question trifecta. First, the Lore Hunter's top 3 ways to cope if Elden Ring isn't at SGF. 1, I turn all the lights off. 2, I get room temperature vodka. And 3, I listen to the Guts theme until I fall asleep crying. But really, how big of a part do you think our mounts will play overall? I am willing to bet that the mount is a relatively important part of the open world, because we already know that there's going to be combat and traversal, and just with that being one of the few things we know, I hope that it is well thought out. And I think because From Software, as I mentioned in the last Elden Wait, they're focusing in on what they're good at, and I'm putting some faith in them that they're not going to half-ass it, and it's not just going to be essentially a way to move faster across the world and just swing your sword. But this is a somewhat important part of the open world experience for them. Because we know with Elden Ring, the big thing is that the open world experience, this open field, these larger vistas, it's no longer just these interconnected corridors of Dark Souls, as Miyazaki said, but these like open fields, and their new mechanics, and they're addressing, everything is sort of going around addressing the open world nature of the game. So the fact that there's a mount was with the spawn wave, the first rumor we got about the game. It came up in the IGN interview, but it wasn't a Miyazaki quote. But I do think it is an important part of the open world. So I do think it'll play a relatively large part, and I think it'll be important for traversal and important. My cat is just going to town on a couch. And I do think it will be important for combat as well. And I'm hoping that it's not just a basic, here's a way to slash while you're on a horse, but it's sort of a considered part. So I have some hopes. Now he's attacking my chair. I have some hopes that it is somewhat important. The last question from Maple Miyazaki is, do you think characters' mouths will move in Elden Ring? I do. I think they will. They did in Sekiro. I do think characters' mouths will move, and I just think that's something we'll see moving forward just as they up some of those qualities. I think we're probably retiring the days of the telepathic communication. So Jay asks, try to predict and describe what you will feel when watching the new trailer for the first time. I do not know. I'm sorry to just disappoint you, but I'm like the type of person, like when I was a kid growing up, I didn't really know how, like Christmas, I got excited on Christmas Eve. I was excited beforehand, but like I never know how I'm going to be hit. I wouldn't describe myself as a particularly in touch person with myself on an emotional level, which is a pretty revealing thing for this question. But what I'm trying to get at here is like, I am not sure at all how I will react, but it's been a long time coming and we've all really built this up, and I've tried to keep expectations reasonable. I think for this we can expect a trailer, hopefully followed by some like interview stuff. This is a gameplay trailer, so it's not going to answer all of our questions, and even these interviews won't answer all of our questions, but it'll be exciting to see the open world and to get an idea of the world. And I think that's important for me. And obviously I'm very excited about the game. So it's hard to say how I will react. Honestly, I don't think I've ever anticipated a trailer as much as I have for Elden Ring here. So we will see. RD asks, could you say something about what plans you have for the channel when the game is out? I have described this a time or two before, but I will do it now because more people are listening than ever. So my plans for the channel when the game is out, I will be doing a daily upload where it's like some water cooler talk. I'll talk about the gameplay I did that day and what I'm doing, just my first impressions. There will be some gameplay footage in the background as I'm going through, sort of like if you're chatting with a coworker or a friend about a game you're playing. It's the video version of the text conversation with your buddies as you're playing. And I think that'll be really cool, and I'm looking forward to it. That will be public. For patrons, I'll be uploading my blind playthrough for Elden Ring for all patrons. And so if you're interested in that, consider Patreon, but that will be another thing I'm doing. And that is going to be a very just me playing through the game for the first time. I don't do a lot of streaming presentation, but some people have been interested in just seeing me play through the first time and just how it works, because I play kind of weird. I turn over every stone. I Google things just so I know what words are. I'm very much interested in absorbing the experience and taking it all in. I don't rush through these games. And so I will have a ton of content there. And then, of course, I will have lore stuff. And then I have EldenRingLore.com. I will be doing The Hunt. Will be mostly about Elden Ring for a while. And we'll be talking about the community and their lore theories and where people are at with certain aspects of the story. So I have a metric shit ton of content planned. So I am very excited. I cannot wait to get to it. Garriman the Old Hunter asks, do you think there will be any network tests? Yeah, I could see one. They did one for the Souls games generally. So Omnipotent has indicated this will have online. So I think that they would want to test that. And given just the precedent of From Software, which is all we have to work off of, they've usually done a network test. If the game is so huge, what do you think they're going to do about guides and directions? Will they have maps? I think that they will be doing a lot of natural things where landmarks are important, But I know it's sort of a contentious topic. I would be totally on board with a literal map where I could look on on the screen. It's supposed to look like a map that someone would have in real life, and I could sort of maybe even go as far as like I can see my little dot there. Maybe I can put some markers on the map, but then I could just sort of see roughly like where I'm at in relation. But I think from the leaked trailer, I do have a lot of faith in From Software that they'll be able to do a lot with landmarks and making recognizable architecture and geography as a way to navigate the world. But I do think for a game of this scope that they will maybe present, another way, because it's not these interconnected corridors of Dark Souls. It's supposed to be these big open fields. And I think that lends itself towards giving the player some tools to orient themselves in the world at a given moment. But it'll be really interesting to see, because the last time, I saw like Kingsfield, they have these really terrible maps, which are just literally maps. They sort of show where you are. But I could see them doing a much better version of that, just to help figure out where you're at in the world, but also be keeping it vague so it's not really like spoiling anything. Maybe it even has a fog of war. I don't know. I don't want it to be too gamey personally, but I'll have to see it and see how they implement it to get a feel of how I feel about it. But I think they'll have some sort of aid for the player. And Peapod asks, what sort of build are you planning to try first? It really depends on what sort of mechanics we learn about and what sort of seems appealing. My basic is your typical guy with big sword, or I do like a quality build with a long sword, but I don't know if those ideas will apply in Elden Ring. And, when I first started playing the series, I did magic a lot. So it really will depend what sort of jumps out to me once they start marketing the game and explaining the different systems, because I will just chase whatever seems exciting. But if it is pretty Souls-like in nature and the other mechanics aren't really, something that's going to greatly affect how it would naturally just sit into a game, probably a quality or a strength build. I like me a big sword and or a big axe, and I like to hit people with it. So, but there's a lot of factors depending on what I can do on a horse, what sort of role stealth has. There's a lot of cool things, and I'm hoping that the game makes it many exciting options, because also magic, if they're overhauling magic, that would be exciting to try out too. If they make magic more compelling this time around, hell yeah, try some magic. So hopefully I will be very torn, but those are sort of, probably like a strength or a quality, potentially magic, maybe even some sneaky stuff depending on how viable it is. We'll see. But those are the builds I might try out first, but I'm just going to go with the flow, and that first experience, that's part of the excitement for me. So, but there you have it. There's the first round of questions. There's a lot more questions to answer. Thank you, everyone. Feel free to throw more questions in the comments. Feel free to throw your own answers in the comments. And I will see you tomorrow for the next Elden Wait.